Alex, with some news from Ireland and the attack on free speech.
Yes, Debbie's apt metaphor there at the end of the propping up gave me a horrible vision based on Moses and Aaron and Hur holding his hands up as he intercedes in the course of the battle. But how do you change a constitution in the Irish Republic? Well, of course, it has one of the finest constitutions, as we've often reported on UK Column News, anywhere in the world. And every single article in the section of that constitution which guarantees individual and inalienable rights has been attacked by fraught referendum processes in the last decade or more. But still, the Irish government, or the deep state beneath it, prefers to use constitutional significance statutes, as Labour is proposing to do there, as Debbie outlined, when it can get away with it, instead of changing the constitution, which is a bit obvious and drastic to all. Helen McEntee, who we've reported on recently, is the Justice Minister in Dublin. And she's with Fine Gael, which is a centre-right party. The Burkean, which is a repository of think pieces that's sceptical about the tyranny that's descending on the Irish Republic, is reporting here that Helen McEntee is perhaps no longer the golden girl, the candidate, or no longer the shoe-in for the next Taoiseach or Prime Minister, because of the work she's done to make the hate crime bill her banner, really. And we've already reported it's been put back to autumn, but it might not get that far. Fine Gael, her party, may revolt against her. It was crime under a Fine Gael minister, Nora Owen, that cost them the election a generation ago when Blair was elected in Britain the same time. And the youth ring, Ogra Fianna Fáil's, called for the resignation of Helen McEntee, even though she likes to pose as a feminist and a right-on modern thinker. She hasn't got the youth wing of her not her own party, but Fianna Fáil, the centre-left party, with her. So she may be forced to lean on her sword, as it were. She's been posited as the Irish AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, because of her wokery. But even the Dublin political scene is finding that it's maybe too much. And behind a paywall, but we'll just flag it up in passing, the Business Post in Ireland has a Fianna Fáil member of the Dáil, Jim O'Callaghan, saying that hate speech law is deeply problematic. If you tap that again, we'll see his image. And it's confusing the courts and the police, the Garda Síochána. And the subtitle of that is that the hate crime bill, which is possibly on ice indefinitely now if Helen McEntee is out on her ear, it could end up criminalising people because of just ill-considered abusive comments, for which the Irish, I may dare to suggest, are well known, made at the time of an offence, when in fact they were not motivated by hatred. Could we see pushback even in Ireland? It's possible. While we're on Ireland, and the sharp-eyed will have spotted the name Helen Joyce appear already in the West Yorkshire story a moment ago with libraries. Helen Joyce is a very remarkable, high-powered mathematical thinker who used to be with The Economist, the London title. She's now a full-time campaigner and advisor on the gender wars, because she's an old-style feminist who believes in two genders. We're going to listen to a purple passage at the end of a recent interview she gave. Again, as usual, it will be in the show notes if you want to find the source. The interview was with Peter Boghossian, a notable champion of free speech who travels the English-speaking world having debates in public. And here she's going to explain to us why the rearguard action for complete wokery, particularly the pushing of trans ideology on children, is going to be fought to the death by certain people, even when the rest of the political caravan has moved on. So even if McEntee and her equivalent in other jurisdictions do get sacked, there'll always be this rearguard action. Why? Helen Joyce explains to us now in 2 minutes.
And the trouble is, there's a lot of people, something that you may not have thought of is that there's a lot of people who can't move on this, because that's the people who've transitioned their own children. So those people are going to be like, the Japanese soldiers who were on Pacific Islands and didn't know the war was over.
Right.
They've got to fight forever. This is another reason why this is the worst social contagion that we'll ever have experienced. A lot of people have done the worst thing that you could do, which is to harm their children irrevocably because of it. Those people will have to believe that they did the right thing for the rest of their lives, for their own sanity and for their own self-respect. So they'll still be fighting. And each one of those people destroys entire organisations and entire friendship groups. Like, I've lost count of the number of times that somebody has said to me of a specific organisation that has got turned upside down on this. Oh, the deputy director has a trans child, or, oh, the journalist on that paper who does special investigations has a trans child, or whatever. The entire organisation gets paralysed by that one person. And it may not even be widely known at the organisation that they have a trans child, but it will come out. Like, people will have sort of said it quietly, and now you can't talk truth in front of that person, and you can't. Because what you're saying is, you as a parent have done a truly like human rights abuse level of
Ghastly.
awful thing to your child that cannot be fixed. There are specific individuals who are really actively against women's rights here, and it's not known why they are, but I happen to know through the back channels that it's because they've trans their child. And so those people will do anything for the entire rest of their lives to destroy me and people like me, because people like me are a standing reproach to them. I don't want to be. I'm not talking directly to them. I don't spend my time bitching about them. But the fact is that just simply by saying we will never accept natal males in women's spaces, well, it's their son that we're talking about. And they've told their son that he can get himself sterilised and destroy his sexual function, and women will accept him as a woman. And if we don't, there's no way back for them and their child. They've sold their child a bill of goods that they can't deliver on. And I'm the one who has to be bullied to try to force me to deliver on it. So those people are going to be the people who will keep this bloody movement going, I'm sorry to say, because they've everything to lose. And it's a fight to the death as far as they're concerned.
Now, whereas the British intelligentsia and the Irish intelligentsia perhaps have only one Helen Joyce, the Poles have thousands of people who will do the same on campaigning vans. Notes from Poland reports why this hasn't gone quite the same way in Ireland. Hate crime there would be processed through the courts, and so you get vans like this with the pretty obvious website title stoppedophilia.pl showing up at pride marches. This footage is from a few years ago because in the city of Gorzów Wielkopolski, in, shall we say, that the more pro-LGBT part of the country, the further west you go, the more pro-LGBT. In 2019, this van showed up saying homosexuals are much more likely to molest children, stop the rainbow plague, and the LGBT lobby wants to teach 4-year-olds masturbation, 6-year-olds sexual content, and 9-year-olds their first sexual experience and orgasm. This went through the court of first instance with the van driver being charged and convicted. It was overturned on appeal because truth turned out to be a defense. The judge in the appeal court ruled that this cannot be hate speech because it's actually true. For example, that homosexuals are far more often likely to molest children than the background population.
And the comments made earlier on what they're teaching children, we've covered this before in UN documents, so it's very factual. Debbie,